Hello everybody, welcome to Monte Carlo, which continues to have a unique fascination for lovers of Formula One. Well, it's so special because it unites all the things that people expect from the sport. Speed, glamour, passion and spectacle. It's the race all the drivers most want to win, thanks to its prestige and its amazing history. Sterling Moss, of course, part of that, his win back in 1961, one of the classic wins around the streets of Monte Carlo. We saw him a moment ago, just giving Lewis Hamilton a moment of last-minute advice, and it's great to see that link between the generations. Well, both of the McLaren drivers came here this weekend hell-bent on winning this Grand Prix, and their duel really has been the highlight of a compelling weekend's action. McLaren seems to have the edge over the Ferrari here, as we've been hearing. Partly it's because the Ferrari just struggles to get those front tyres working over a single lap in qualifying, but we expect a greater challenge today from Felipe Massa in third place. Poor old Kimi Raikkonen, though, that unforced error he made yesterday in qualifying, pushing him back to 16th place on the grid. He'll have his work cut out to make it through from there. But I would never underestimate Felipe Massa. His rich run of form recently, 2 victories in the last 2 Grand Prix, 5 poles in the last 7, shows you just what kind of run he's on. So Hamilton is certainly going to have to think about him off the start line. But as we've heard, Alonso, last year's winner here and the reigning world champion, took the pole yesterday in a qualifying session that was blighted really with slower cars and traffic. Certainly Lewis didn't get a clean lap in. He was one of a number of drivers to get caught out with traffic. So we didn't really see his absolute speed in qualifying. I'm sure we'll find it out today in race conditions. But all weekend he's had an assurance about him. He loves this place, and on his previous visits he's never lost here. And as you can see, he lines up on an all McLaren front row, the first of 2007. Giancarlo Fisichella, we believe he's running quite light and could certainly be a threat off the start line. Mark Webber and Nico Rosberg likewise, all running fairly light. The 2 BMWs would appear to be heavier. Robert Kubica, I'm told, is on a one-stop strategy, which might bring him into play for a podium later on, particularly if anything happens to the cars just in front of him on their strategies. If safety cars intervene, it might just hand it to Robert Kubica. Good to see Jenson Button back in the top 10 with the Honda, just behind teammate Rubens Barrichello. Tony Liuzzi did a great job in the Toro Rosso to get himself up there. David Coulthard, you see there, 13th on the grid. He was given an unusual penalty, not allowed to take part in the final part of qualifying after he blocked Heikki Kovalainen in Quali 2, and there was some harsh words to be said between both of them. And look at Ralf Schumacher back in 20th place on the grid. Hasn't scored a point now since the first round in Australia, and he's having a pretty tough time. Well, the gossip in the paddock is that Lewis Hamilton is running 4 laps longer on his fuel load in this opening stint of the race than teammate Alonso. 3 of them were due to the strategy. He also saved an extra lap of fuel yesterday in qualifying compared to his teammate. And sometimes it's those tiny little details that make all the difference when you're chasing your first race victory. He said yesterday after qualifying, I'm not going to do anything stupid into the first corner. But Martin, you've raced here many, many times. You had some terrific results here, particularly in the Brabham, I remember, in 1989. And of course, the McLaren finished second here back in 94, sorry. But what is it about Turn 1 Sandivot? How, as a driver, do you get yourself into that corner? I mean, is it just close your eyes and hope, or is there any science to it?
Well, because the track is very narrow and bumpy into Turn 1, you can't take it too easily, otherwise somebody will run into the back of you, and at the same time you don't want to attack too hard. Luckily now they've taken the barrier away on the inside of the corner. You can see the corner much better, although it's actually out of sight for Lewis Hamilton there sitting on the front row of the grid. Such is the curve in the pit straight, as they wrongly call it. But you can at least go inside the curb now down at Turn 1, but it's dirty there, and you are still likely to get collected on the way out of the corner. So you can't think about it. It's instinctive, James. You get off the line, you instantly compute where you're at in terms of the guy in front of you and the cars behind you. Did I get away well? Am I in position? Can I take somebody down to Turn 1? And then your mind switches immediately to, where am I going to brake down into Turn 1? What is my chosen braking point? And I'll see where that takes me.
Well, Hamilton has the strongest starting record of all the front runners. If we take a look at the Drivers' Championship going into this race, and Kimi Raikkonen, as you can see, is going to get left behind a little bit today if he's not careful. Hamilton, Alonso and Massa, all candidates for the victory here, and certainly candidates to take some big points away from this Grand Prix. But, well, we've seen Hamilton make up places over Raikkonen on 2 occasions off the start line. He picked places up off Felipe Massa, if you remember, as well in Malaysia. It's normally the preserve of the experienced driver to make up places at the start, but Hamilton seems to have slotted into that role along with all the other roles that he has slotted into as well. But let's not underestimate Fernando Alonso. You don't win 2 world championships by accident. He is a relentless competitor, a ferocious competitor, and he will take some beating here this afternoon. The grid clearing, all the mechanics enjoying the weekend. It's a much better race for them than it used to be. They used to have to push the cars down from multi-storey car parks and work in ad hoc facilities, and Monaco has really addressed that in recent years, and it's more like a normal Grand Prix really for them, but just a heck of a lot more glamorous in the evenings when they finish work.
Very curiously though, the pit lane is nowhere near the pit straight, the starting straight as it were. They duck inside now, the only space they had available to them. And this is the entry to the swimming pool. I've got a video from 1989 when on board of an entire race I did here for Brabham, and we did absolutely nothing going to the entire temperature as they go to the grid.
Making their way then up onto the start line. This is the first direct confrontation off the front row between the 2 McLaren drivers that we've had so far this season. It will be absolutely fascinating to see what Hamilton does, what Alonso does, how they treat each other, because the absolute no-no of Grand Prix racing is do not ever take your teammate off. Yeah, so we've talked a lot about Alonso, Hamilton and Massa, but some great performances with Fisichella 4th, Rosberg 5th, Webber in 6th. I think the first one-stopper is Kubica in 8th place in the BMW. Then behind him, there'll be a lot of drivers just one-stopping in this Grand Prix. So I think you'll see the race sort of divide into 2 parts quite early on. 60,000 spectators in the stands and in seats, many more thousands on boats hanging off trees and on grass banks waiting for the start of this one. It's not all over at the start, but it's a big part, and the Monaco Grand Prix is go. Hamilton goes defensive, that looked tactical, straight in behind Alonso. Massa cannot find a way round, and that was beautifully choreographed by the 2 McLarens. A bit of bump and grind there between the BMW of Heidfeld and Nico Rosberg, and Heidfeld has got in front of him. That's terrific. Looks like Jenson Button's lost a couple of places, and so has Ralf Schumacher, who's at the tail of the field as they stream through the Casino Square, past the wonderful casino there, the Hotel de Paris on the right. Classic scenes, a classic racetrack.
Got 4 more laps of fuel than Alonso, and this race is not interrupted by safety cars, not interrupted by rain. Then all he has to do is stay glued to the gearbox of Fernando Alonso, and he can win the race. And Alonso knows that only too well. He'll know exactly the fuel level in Lewis Hamilton's car. Massa then a distant 3rd at the moment, closely followed by Fisichella, Heidfeld, Rosberg, Barrichello, Webber 8th, Kubica 9th, Wirtz 10th for Williams.
Anthony Davidson is down in 19th place in the Super Aguri as we're riding on board with 2nd place man Lewis Hamilton up to Massenet corner. Left-hander before going into the Casino Square. Big bump on the left. You see they all move away from that into the Mirabeau. 50 miles an hour here. The rain gutters down the inside. Stick to the track. Whoa, we've got someone in the barriers. It's one of the Toro Rosso cars, and I believe it's Tonio Liuzzi, who has lost it at Massenet, right next to the casino on the outside of the racetrack. Now, any car in the barriers here in Monaco always makes race director Charlie Whiting think about a safety car. We are only a lap into this race, but here's what happened.
Yes, he's gone over the top of Massenet a little bit too hard and fast, got wide. There's just no, it's dirty as anything out there, and he was very closely fighting his teammate Scott Speed. They're going to try and recover that car under waved yellow flags. That means that marshals will be on the track. Slow down, even be prepared to stop is what that means. So at the moment they're not thinking about safety car. It's quite a usual place to crash, if that doesn't sound silly, and there is a crane race in the first corner at Monaco. You can only lose it, then there is no point in taking serious risks. 78 laps to go, 4,000 gear shifts, so many apexes to hit, so many barriers to miss. It's going to be a long haul. At the moment, Hamilton slipped immediately a second behind Alonso again, and the fluidity's not quite there yet at the moment. You can see Lewis just a touch tense. He'd made his mind up, hadn't he, to dive right immediately. Let's see if there is Raikkonen just flying off the grid past the Super Aguri. That's why he's got himself up into P12, and that Ferrari will have a lot of fuel on board. I think you'll see Raikkonen in the action, and Hamilton doing a good rear gunner job there for Alonso, and a lot of scuffing going on in the midfield between Webber and Barrichello. Yeah,
Heidfeld involved in that as well. On board from Lewis's perspective, straight in behind Alonso. No even attempt to pass him into Saint-Devote. That's where Lewis went off on Thursday afternoon into that barrier on the left.
Place just 1.6 seconds adrift.
Well, Jenson Button is under really intense pressure from Kimi Räikkönen in that battle over 11th place. We're riding on board with Nico Rosberg. Nick Heidfeld in 5th place is just in front of us, and already these two are 11 seconds behind the race leaders. That's the field spread you get here in Monte Carlo. 7 times world champion Michael Schumacher here as a consultant to Ferrari, doing a lot of work behind the scenes, particularly to the benefit of Felipe Massa, who's driving most benefit from it. Alonso leading there, and this is lap 6.
There's a wall behind you, behind Barrichello, at least 3.5 seconds. So you need to have a go at Heidfeld.
Nice bit of team radio there. Back on board with Nico Rosberg. In that 6th place, already 14 seconds look behind.
He's edging out a 10th there and a 10th there over Hamilton, who's just establishing himself over 3rd place man Massa. Fisichella 5 seconds adrift in 4th. Heidfeld another 6 seconds down the road in 5th. Rosberg 6th for Williams. Barrichello 7th. Honda. Webber 8th. Red Bull. Kubica 9th, and one stopping we think for BMW. Wirtz 10th. Williams. Button 11th. Honda. He did not get away well. Raikkonen, we know, took 4 places on the first lap up to P12 in the Ferrari. I think we're going to see a lot more of him later on this afternoon. And Scott Speed is 13th, Coulthard 14th, Kovalainen for Renault 15th, Sato Super Aguri is at 16th, truly the best Toyota, amazingly, in 17th. Davidson 2nd, Super Aguri 18th, Sutil and Albers 19th and 20th. Ralf Schumacher brings up the rear.
Of the Monaco Grand Prix. You're riding on board with Kimi Räikkönen down in 12th place, battling with Jenson Button just in front of him in the Honda. This is Honda's best showing for a while this season. It's been a difficult start to the season. A lot of new parts brought to this car and a lot more still to come. Jenson Button saying that on the time we get back from the North American leg, which is coming up shortly, he believes that they will have taken another step forward. At the front, though, Button comes into the pits. Jenson Button in a points-paying position for the first time this year in 7th. And where is he going to feed back out again relative to teammate Barrichello? My guess is a place or 2 behind him. Behind Barrichello, we've got Rosberg and Coulthard. Rosberg's lost ground as a result of his strategy. There goes Rubens Barrichello. Button tucks in. Jenson's back, 11th.
Coulthard still on track. He hasn't felt the need to pit yet, but the left part of his front wing is missing, and the car looks a bit of a handful. He's about a second a lap slower than Kovalainen behind him, who of course was the man that David was judged to have blocked. David was told Kovalainen was on and out. Kubica finally stops then on lap 45. From P5 at the moment. Where is he going to feed in? He could well feed in front of Heidfeld. This is going to be very close between the BMWs. Kubica has done a great job in that phase of the race and could just move him nicely up the order.
There he is, goes out of the pits, and there is his teammate who will be getting the sinking feeling, seeing the sister car of Robert Kubica coming out in front of him. Kubica, of course, fueled to the finish now, running in 5th place, half a minute behind Fisichella, who has to stop again. This is lap 47 of the Monaco Grand Prix. If the conditions stay like they are at the moment, so it doesn't look as though it's going to rain, which is a great relief. And if the positions stay as they are at the moment, then Alonso in the lead and Hamilton second means that in the championship they will be tied on points, but Alonso will be the championship leader by virtue of having won races. Hamilton, of course, has yet to win, but long way to go yet. 32 laps still. The margin between them is just under 10 seconds, and what we've seen is Lewis Hamilton coming alive at the end of the stint. We believe he's going to go 4 or 5 laps longer on the fuel this middle stint of the race than Fernando Alonso. Those will be the critical laps for him, and traffic may well play a part one way or the other in the outcome there. At the moment, the challenger Ferrari would appear to have faded, with Massa in 3rd place, a half a minute behind Hamilton. Fisichella has done a wonderful job here this afternoon in 4th place, but Robert Kubica, on a very, very long one-stop strategy in opening stint, has just pitted and rejoined in 5th place, so that's totally worked for him. He's back out in front of teammate Heidfeld. He's fueled to the...
Has filed out of the pit lane. He's got 2 slower cars ahead of him now, and Alonso actually treading quite cautiously on this outlap.
Raikkonen, who started 16th after a mistake in qualifying in the Ferrari, really has struggled to impose himself from there, and he is in 11th place, a lap down on the leaders. Kubica, another man to make a one-stop strategy work for him, started 8th, now running 5th, ahead of teammate Heidfeld. And Rubens Barrichello looks set at the moment to score Honda's first point for the Works team of 2007. We've already had the point, of course, for the Super Aguris. There is Rosberg with 18 laps to go, making his second stop. Let's hear from Ted.
Yeah, unfortunately, strange strategy for Jenson Button. He does have to stop again. Of course, we saw that he took on the hard tyres in the second stop, which meant that even if he had enough fuel, he would have to stop again for tyres. But it will be a splash and dash for them. Just question, Martin, why didn't they put him on a one-stop? Why didn't they fuel him up in the first stop, change the tyres, and then he could have got Heidfeld when Heidfeld pits for the second time. Bit strange, that.
Yeah, maybe they thought they would be so far off the pace with the soft that they'd go again with the tyres they felt were right, and then minimise their time. It's sometimes worth spending the time trundling down the pit lane to have a good set of tyres around here, but it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for Nico Rosberg either, who's even outside of the top 10 now. At the moment, Raikkonen, for some reason, I don't know if his computer stopped on his car, but he's very clearly still there, isn't he? And yeah, he's popped back in again. He was suddenly sailing down the charts here in front of my very eyes, but he's on the track for real.
Certainly is, tailing Alex Wurz, Austrian driver, on his return to Formula One after a lengthy spell as a test driver, first for the McLaren team and then for the Williams team. Something's going on at BMW. All the mechanics are standing ready. They've all got their wheel guns in their hands, but none of them have got a tyre anywhere near them. I'm not quite sure they did. It's McLaren's 150th victory in Formula One. It's the 17th of Alonso's career. He wins in Monte Carlo, his second victory of the season. It's another second place for Lewis Hamilton. Terrific performance by him. And my 5-year-old son said to me when I got back from Barcelona, "Dad, I don't think Lewis is any good." "Why not, son?" I said, "Because he never wins. He always finishes second." I tried to explain, but I'm sure one day Lewis's chance will come, because he put up a great fight here, but just fell short. Alonso is your race winner.
And back-to-back victories, of course, having changed chassis as well, just for good measure. He lapped the Renault he stepped out of last year, and pretty much had this race under control, didn't he? From halfway around the first lap, he appeared to be quicker. simply quicker. His car looked beautifully balanced. And, well, Anthony, you're 5 races into your son's Grand Prix career. He's had 5 podiums now. He still jointly leads the World Championship on points. But I think it's a measure of where they expect to be now, that he looked extremely disappointed, didn't he?
Yeah.
That I really think the Hamiltons came here thinking they could and should win this Grand Prix, but Alonso had an answer for everything.
It's his 4th second place in a row for Lewis Hamilton. Remarkable performance. 3rd, Felipe Massa. There he is, getting some points for Ferrari. Fisichella 4th, Robert Kubica in 5th place. Whatever his problems were, they cleared themselves in the final few laps, so more good points for him. Heidfeld in 6th, his teammate, so another good run for BMW. Wirtz picks up his first points of the 2007 season in 7th place, and a sole point for the Ferrari of Kimi Raikkonen, who might have considered himself to be a championship contender. Well, Martin, it's that time of the day when we start talking about the driver of the day. A lot of contenders here. Who are you going to give it to?
I think it's very easy today for the first time this year, really, in many respects. But Alonso had the measure of everybody out there, and we didn't see him anywhere near errors or the wall in terms of he had the pace, he had the consistency, mentally and physically. And the car was beautifully set up, you have to say. So Alonso fully deserved that victory.
Honourable mention as well, I think, for the one stopping Robert Kubica, getting it up into 5th place. Giancarlo Fisichella in 4th. Alex Wirtz as well, 11th to 7th for him. Scott Speed, who finished in 9th place, having started down in 18th in a Toro Rosso. That must have been quite a heroic drive by him, I would think. Pits, Webber, the variety of technical problems, Antonio Liuzzi, who smashed into the barriers as well. The crowd seemed to have enjoyed themselves. A big Spanish turnout, as there is at every race now. It's Alonso's Barmy Army that's replaced Schumacher's Barmy Army. Coulthard has probably run out of fuel there, just on the run down to the Tabac corner. He finished in 14th place.
DC's going to leave the Red Bull to the Pirates in the harbour by the looks of it. He doesn't want to drive it any further.
Jenson Button picked up 11th behind teammate Rubens Barrichello. Rosberg, who was a contender early on, finished in 12th. Kovalainen 13th, as we heard. Coulthard 14th. Trulli 15th. Ralf Schumacher 16th. Sato and Davidson rounding out the finishers 17th and 18th. And the unique privilege of the podium men at Monaco that they can park their cars on the track and collect their trophy from Prince Albert on this very special podium. Let's have a look at the body language of Lewis Hamilton when he gets out. Much less triumphal than we've seen, isn't it? He's a tough competitor, Fernando Alonso. Mentally, he's a man of steel. There's Lewis going over to him. Felipe Massa picks up another podium finish, his 3rd in a row.
Crash helmet with the diamonds on.
Yeah, there's a boat that's been floating in the harbour here. You see the diamonds of Monaco 07 on Lewis's helmet. A bit of bling there for an otherwise very humble man. But there's a boat there that's got something like £80 million worth of diamonds on it this weekend. And just going on it on Thursday, one felt like you're in the plot of some heist movie. I was sort of looking around very nervously. And the security must be unbelievable, but nevertheless. A few diamonds on Lewis's helmet don't seem to have done that made the difference. He's still a diamond geezer, but not a race winner here in Monte Carlo.
Watch goes on, one of the sponsors of the team, of course. When those drivers get into the press conference, you'll see them wearing very stiff sort of jackets, so all of the sponsors are turned towards the cameras. Such is the minute detail that the McLaren team go to. Otherwise, the overalls and the badges all get a bit ruffled up, but look out for that later on.
Well, they seem to have their enthusiasm under control. I sense it's been quite a physical contest, this one. And Alonso, Hamilton and Massa have all felt it. Ron Dennis is going to go and collect McLaren's 14th winner's trophy as a constructor around Monaco. No other constructor anywhere near them on wins. And there's Prince Albert for the second year in a row, keeping an appointment with Fernando Alonso.
Now let's have a look at Lewis's body language. Ron Dennis first to get the Constructors' Trophy. It's been a tough afternoon for Lewis, but he didn't hit anything.
Princess Caroline gives him the trophy. He manages a smile, and well he should. Another second place to add to this extraordinary debut season of Lewis Hamilton, but you can sense the disappointment. Only so close to the start of his Formula One career, and he already wants to win so badly. Massa picks up third, but they weren't in it this weekend. And it's McLaren's 150th as a constructor. They'll be having a party for that tonight.
3 drivers on the lead lap: Alonso, Hamilton, Massa. Of course, everybody else lapped at least once.
laissez faire. Oui, je sais bien.
Voilà, donc McLaren, on va rappeler quand même les positions ex aequo pour les deux pilotes McLaren. Pour l'écurie, c'est leur 150e victoire dans le championnat du monde. 14e, et c'est le record qui est confirmé donc au début de la victoire. Retour aussi
La portière.
Avec cette fois-ci un moteur Honda sur la McLaren et cette année avec le moteur Mercedes et donc le troisième doublé de l'écurie en 2007.
Questo appuntamento